Cricket's governing body, the ICC, has refused to comment on the overthrows incident in Sunday's World Cup final between England and New Zealand. A spokesperson for the ICC said, quote, "The umpires take decisions on the field with their interpretation of the rules, and we don't comment on any decisions as a matter of policy." Well, England were given 6 runs from the third ball in the final over when a throw from the deep from Martin Guptill rebounded off the bat of a diving Ben Stokes and deflected to the boundary. 5-time ICC Umpire of the Year Simon Taufel, an Aussie, said the officials erred in awarding England 6 runs where they should have awarded 5. This is what Simon Taufel said. "It's a clear mistake, an error of judgment. In the heat of what was going on, they thought there was a good chance the batsman had crossed at the instant of the throw. Obviously, TV replays showed otherwise." Joining us to recap the cricket final, the cricket extravaganza, the bonanza even from Sunday, is of course the international man of cricket, Fazeer Mohammed. We should have linked with him on Monday, but technology didn't allow us to do so, and we've made the link now. Good afternoon, Fazeer. Welcome again.
Good afternoon. Good to be on the show as always.
Good. So much has been said about the World Cup final from Sunday, and much of that narrative has been shaped by what Simon Taufel has said post-game. We'll come to that later. I want to tackle this post-analysis from this perspective. I read an interesting piece from a journalist who was apparently with the England camp rather, after that semi-final win over Australia. And he revealed something interesting. He said that Trevor Bayliss, who's usually a man of few words, called the team together and had some strong words with them. He said that he was not speaking to them just as their coach, he was speaking to them as an Aussie, and he was reminding them that the English have a tendency to celebrate victories over Australia and then take their eyes off the ball. He said that the semi-final win over Australia was nothing to celebrate and that nothing had been achieved yet by this batch, and they better get their feet back on the ground and refocus. The report from the journalist was that the room was in silence when he said this, because it's almost as if perspective was brought back to the situation and the task at hand, a refocusing of the team. In a way, Fazeer, do you believe that an approach like that from Bayliss, sitting off from the noise of the semi-final victory and then having the sense of purpose and the sense of mind to say that to the team, in any way helped Morgan's team to focus on the bigger prize on Sunday?
Well, the evidence would suggest that it did, and I think that is really what... I know it's a catchphrase of the modern era, but you really have to be mindful that the young sportsmen and women of 2019 have a very different environment, very different opportunities, very different lucrative opportunities as well, and very different value systems of themselves compared to 10, 20, 30, certainly 40 years ago. So you've got to be able to bring them back home, if necessary, to what is really the focus. And I think that is essentially what a coach is all about in elite sport these days. It shouldn't be about the subtleties and the finer points, because they're supposed to be there already. But it really needs to bring you back home. And in that case, with Bayliss giving them that reminder, because you know about the rivalry between England and Australia going way back till 1877. We have the Ashes series coming up from the 1st of August and all of that tied into it. And yes, there might have been that emotional release after winning so comprehensively, but it was certainly important that he brought them back down to ground.
Yeah, and Owen Morgan also said that having memories of the Champions Trophy, I think it was 2017, when they won the semi-final handsomely, they had several beers, they celebrated Fazeer, only to flop in the final against Pakistan. He said that memory was still raw and that he and other senior players had to remind everyone in the squad of what happened in 2017 to really guide them and warn them against any over-exuberance in celebrating the semi-final, percolating into the preparations for the final and affecting the mindset and the performance on the Sunday.
Definitely, and I think what we are seeing now, even in the aftermath final, that pulsating finish and the drama, controversy, and the different perspectives, and a lot of comparisons are being made to this triumph, which is one of the greatest in English cricket, compared to the 2005 Ashes triumph, because remember, England hadn't won the Ashes for 21 years, and there were celebrations, there was drunkenness, all sorts of things going on. This time around, it's a very different message. It's a far more sober message, It's a far more family oriented type of message. For example, yesterday they were at the Oval in London greeting kids at an event that was already planned, and they were specially invited guests. And it was almost as if they were saying that, look, we are not so much at the center of attention, but we've been given this stage to try to re-promote the game of cricket once again in England because of all of the issues associated with the game being on pay-per-view TV on Sky, where it's alienated an entire generation. So I think it's a huge difference, both in terms of attitude and both in terms of the way this is actually being celebrated. It's actually, they've now recognized, as I read in a BBC report on yesterday's event, that while 2005 was the culmination, this is being seen as the beginning, the springboard for a new era in English cricket.
Fazeer, I wanted to find out your take on the fact that boundaries were used to determine the winner. Are you in agreement with that?
Not at all. And I think of all the many different issues, including that 6 runs which should have been 5, the real issue is, should we be determining a World Cup of cricket on the basis who's because
I think we lost him there. Let's cut the call. Fazeer, we're having trouble with your phone line in responding to that question. Let's cut and reconnect.
Are you hearing me clearly now?
Let's reconnect with you. It's breaking up. Let's reconnect. We can do that. So in the time that we have to get Fazeer back, we've been speaking about this since yesterday, and it's rough. The New Zealanders, though, I still remain firm on my point from yesterday. Were this the Aussies, if this was the Aussie team that lost this way, we'd be talking about the appeal that they filed today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the New Zealanders have taken the loss very, very graciously. In fact, in the face of real and logical reasons for them to be incensed, they have been calm. And you are right. It's not normal, I think, for a team to lose any kind of sporting final, a championship game, in the way they did and appear to take it so well, because they have taken it well.
Even the captain, when he came out and he spoke about how they felt, the manner in which he said it was like a gentleman. It's like he wanted to say they lost and they feel disappointed, but he said it in the most subtle of ways.
So I don't agree with the ICC's stance to withhold comment on the issue of the overthrows. And I can't understand sports administrators. It's not as if some people saw the overthrows and reported it to some other people. The whole world saw it. Millions of people saw it. During the Super Over, the peak viewing was what, 8.5 million in Britain on television alone, not counting online and in the pubs and other public spaces. So 8 plus almost 9 million people saw that. And they're waiting on the the governing body of cricket to make a pronouncement either way on the issue of the overthrows. And you send a statement to say that as a matter of policy, you're not saying anything? Absolute rubbish. I think we have Fazeer back. Fazeer, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. And
yes.
Apologies for the rather shaky mobile line.
That's not a problem. You were responding to the question Maria posed about the boundaries issue.
Yeah, because basically this was something that was approved by the ICC chief executive, the member board's chief executives just over a year ago. And it's quite obvious that this wasn't properly thought out because it was something that was used from T20. And if you really think about it, if you think about the nature of a 50 over a side match, where you might have a side batting first in overcast conditions where the ball is wobbling about, they may not get a lot of boundaries, as against a team might be batting second and they're in a rush, they're on the hunt, like England were. Naturally, they're going to get more boundaries as the pitch flattens out, as the pressure builds, as they go for the big hits. So clearly, it is not the way to go. But sometimes you have to wait for something to happen for the rule to be changed. And rest assured, it's going to be changed in the same way that the reason we have VAR now in football is because of that game in the 2010 World Cup between England and Germany, when James Milner scored what was a perfectly legitimate goal in that game against Germany that was clearly in, and then all the noise started about video technology. So sadly, it takes often something really pivotal to happen at a significant moment for there to be change, and I don't think we're going to see boundaries determining any ODI match ever again.
Yeah, Faz, what would your prescription be, though? Because in many instances in world sport, a tiebreaker situation is always something that leaves a lot of fans unfulfilled. So you have a tied situation, even in a football match, and after extra time, which I think most people accept extra time, but it's still level at extra time, so they go to penalties. Many people have a problem with that. What would be a satisfactory position for the ICC to decide a cricket match, especially in a situation like yesterday, like Sunday, where the match tied and then even the super over ended in a tie? What would satisfy you as a reasonable way to decide it?
I suppose, Lance, if you really look at it, there will never be a truly satisfactory way, because you've always got to find a way to end it. Whereas previously you might have had a replay, you might have, as they would have done in English FA Cup for years and years, they would have had replays and so on. Now, because of the demands of television, and television which almost mandates that you compartmentalize everything in a particular time frame, that becomes a challenge. I would suggest, in the same way that you would have overtime and double overtime in an American NBA game, for example, why not have a double super over, a super over? And then, if it's still even, which would really be pushing the levels of probability that after a second super over, it's still level, well, okay, then I would have no issue with saying, well, okay, the team that finished higher in the standings, they will be declared the champions, or you share the title. But I know ideally everybody wants a champion, so that's the way I would look at it. It would probably cost you another 25 to 30 minutes in terms of airtime, but I would think it would be far more satisfactory than settling it on boundaries.
Fazeer, so you're okay with them sharing the title after the super over?
Not entirely, because I think the reason everybody is saying that they would like the title to be shared is because so much seemed to go against New Zealand towards the end of the match. And there's a tremendous amount of understandable sympathy for New Zealand, not just because they were the beaten finalists 4 years ago, but the manner in which they lost that rebound of Ben Stokes' bat, Trent Bolt stepping onto the boundary cushions when he could have relayed it to a teammate to get Ben Stokes out. So much seemed to conspire against New Zealand at that time, which is why everyone who would have sympathy with New Zealand might be saying that a shared title would be ideal. I think at the end of the day, you don't go all the way to a final to share the title. I think there has to be some merit in teams performing well in the league stage of the competition, and would actually give those league matches far more importance, and even more important than they have right now.
Fazeer, a generation of English youngsters grew up with the cricket, as they call it in Britain, with the cricket on Sky, because of course Sky hoovers up all of the prime sporting content, and you have to have a subscription to get to it. The license fee paying BBC viewers who can't afford Sky can't watch the cricket. On Sunday, in the face of huge public uproar, the Sky was forced to put the cricket on free TV. I think it was on Channel 4, and then there was even an issue because the tennis and everything interrupted the space that crowded out the space rather than the cricket would have been broadcast on it, so it had to be put somewhere else, but it was on free TV. And the way the number crunchers have said, the picture they've painted about the number of people who consumed the cricket, who watched the cricket, shouldn't this be obvious to the England and Wales Cricket Board? How to ensure that the sport has a future in England, in Britain, by ensuring that more of the high caliber stuff is on a BBC's, on free to air, rather than behind Rupert Murdoch's paywall at Sky.
And you know, of course, the English cricket authorities have said that the fact that England are actually in a position to win the World Cup and actually win it, never mind what we may say about it should have been a tie and so on, it's because of that money from Sky. But the fact is, many people were making the point, George and Lance and Mariah and so on, they were making the point that, look, all of that money that would have been gained from Sky, the hundreds of millions, the billions of pounds, that is now going to be actually spent. They're going to spend probably the same amount of money to gain the attention of a generation who, as you said quite correctly, weren't familiar with the game at all. It was very interesting during the course of the group matches of this World Cup. I had opportunity to speak with a number of different individuals in the game, and they were saying that the 10 and 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds know nothing, almost nothing about a Joss Butler or a Moeen Ali and all these different players. Those with subcontinental roots, it's a bit different because of that inherent love for the game and so on. But the argument that is being put forward now is that, yes, the English cricket authorities would have got huge sums of money, but now they're going to have to spend that equivalent or even more to get people back into the game, notwithstanding that triumph. And just to put some further numbers to what you gave about that final on Sunday, where 8-point-something million would have viewed it, 11-point-something million viewed the England women playing the USA women in the Women's World Cup semi-final, the largest television viewing so far for the year for any event in the UK, and it's been seen as a huge springboard for women's football. So that discussion is certainly going to continue.
Absolutely so. And Fazeer, just before we go, the issue, the continued issue of the support for cricket in Britain, and the fact that here you have Britain at a crucial time in its political history with Brexit, and people from Britain, born in Britain, in the castle of their white skin, asking immigrants when they are going home. And this team that delivered the title, Fazeer, it's not an insignificant point to note. 5 of them were not born in the UK, including Geoffrey Archer, the young man who was given the task to bowl that death over. Their captain, Owen Morgan, their coach is an Aussie, multicultural, multinational in real terms, England, winning the World Cup. Isn't this a big, strong middle finger? I know you don't believe in obscenities, Fazeer, but I have to say it this way. Isn't this a middle finger to the bigots who say that England effectively should be for whites only?
Well, I think you've just made the point, because if you have to use that sort of obscenity to reach those bigots, it will make no difference to them whether the team was all born outside of the UK or none born outside of the UK. The fact of the matter is, and this is, again, an interesting point, 2 parallels, I could give it very, very quickly. Last year, England were united even more than now over their men's World Cup team almost reaching the final. Within a matter of minutes, that being over, the knives were out as usual over the Brexit issue. It was almost as if the miracle of the World Cup football and the unity had disappeared. In 1998, you'll recall, I'm sure, when France won the World Cup for the first time, beating Brazil 3-0 at the Parc des Princes, with that unified team with Zinedine Zidane and his Algerian roots, and everyone was saying this is going to transform France. It didn't, and we've seen the riots in the poor suburbs of Paris since then. So we would love to think that it would make a difference, but as you said correctly, if you have to appeal to people with a middle finger, that tells you the mentality you're dealing with.
There you go. Thank you very much, Fazeer. Always a pleasure, and we'll catch up again.
Take care.
Good.